Alrighty. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Thanks everybody for joining this session. Mobile is a very important device. It is the remote control of our lives. I'm sure you all agree. If you think about it, it is a bridge between the physical and the virtual world, right? Communication nowadays is a basic human need, and I can't think of any other technology quite as democratic as mobile that connects people from all over the world. So organizations that understand that are driving forward a mobile-first strategy, and they're able to accelerate their business and dominate the market. But of course, if you're going to deliver high-quality, high-performing mobile applications that your customers and users will love, well, you need a quality strategy in place. And that's why I'm here today. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about quality, the quality assurance industry, and what we're doing at Tricentis with regards to AI-powered test automation. So before we begin, full disclosure, my name is Simona Domazetoska, and I'm not an AI bot. Just thought I'd put it out there. And yeah, I'm not a deepfake technology. I'm a real human being. Just, we gotta make it clear nowadays. Alrighty, so I just thought, I'd start this presentation with a bit of a story. I discovered that my brother and I, the other day, have quite relatively different purchasing patterns. So he's a structural engineer, and being a structural engineer, he loves to do his due diligence with regards to purchasing products. So he could be purchasing something as simple as a USB stick, and he'll put together spreadsheets and spreadsheets of the pros and cons of purchasing different products. So I'm sure you guys have been there, done that. I'm quite different. I'm part of that classic Gen Y generation that is quite lazy and prefers to just buy something and get it over and done with, which is great until something happened to me recently. There is this common saying, poor people pay double. And my mother used to tell it to me growing up. And I'll explain to you what that means in a bit. So I've been using this luggage for the past 3 years, right? And I had this imminent dream that the lifespan of my luggage is going to slowly come to an end. But I clung on to that last thread of hope that it would somehow sustain my lately effervescent traveling, and also partly because I was lazy to purchase a new luggage. So, lo and behold, what happened? I was at the airport at New York City, and my worst nightmare came true, which is that my luggage completely tore apart, the wheels completely tore apart, but luckily my clothes had survived. And yeah, I basically was in a really expensive city, and I had to spend a lot of money to repair my luggage or buy a new one, as you know. And I wanted to ask you, has that ever happened to you when you just need things to work, they fail at the last moment, and you end up paying double the amount just to fix that thing and cover the costs? I'm sure we've all been there. So basically the point is, fuck-ups happen, and that fuck-ups are inevitable. And you can see that what's happening with our world today is that there's this innovation, this ocean of innovation that is sweeping our culture, our lives. And nowadays, it's part of our thirst, our desire, and our need for speed, right? So regardless if you want to admit it or not, we thrive off speed. We're constantly on the lookout for that next big technology that's going to disrupt our lives. And I'm sure you all agree, generative AI is part of that trend. But we see that being metastasized in almost every company. Every IT leader right now is being told they need to adopt an AI strategy to transform their business. So how we can think about this is that the only constant is change. But change, like the ocean, has some unpredictability, It's like navigating through rough water. And it's the same for IT leaders when they're being told to innovate. In fact, 56% of IT leaders say that when they prioritize speed, the speed of development, and the speed of fast delivery, the quality suffers. 49% admit that because quality is an afterthought, they lose out on revenue, which leads to poor customer experience. And finally, 54% say that they're struggling to simply keep up with the changing demands of customer demands, which is very much tied to that need to innovate. So the point is, guys, it seems that everybody wants to do things fast, but we don't really want to do things right. It's like jumping from an airplane. Did you test the parachute? Probably just relied on the guy flying with you to test it for you. Did you go live confidently or with your fingers crossed? And if we relate this back to mobile apps, how are you going to ensure that your mobile application delivery goes live on time, on budget, and at high quality? So that's really the industry in which I operate. So I work in the quality assurance industry. I work in testing. And testing is the last thing that everybody thinks about. It's kind of like the unsung hero of our world. And it's the first thing that gets cut from any IT budget. Until a failure happens, that can potentially wreak havoc on the organization. So why is it that quality is an afterthought? It's for many different types of reasons, but one of the first reasons is that we have this kind of low-risk mindset. So our brains are not really wired to think about risk, to think about quality. We just want to go fast, as I said before. Another reason is that just to go back a point, does anybody read the DORA State of DevOps survey? Okay, it's a really good survey, and basically what we see is that companies that are quite low in terms of DevOps maturity actually have 26% of them think about testing. So there is a correlation between low DevOps and kind of not having a quality strategy in place. Another reason that quality is an afterthought is because testing is expensive. It consumes 1/3 of a typical IT budget. That's a lot of money, right? And testing is expensive because it's manually done. It's slow, it's inefficient, and the way in which companies are testing today, believe it or not, it's still quite manual. And some of them are using script-based solutions, so it's not really optimal. And what that means, and we were just speaking to Forrester, I'm sure you guys know Forrester, they're an industry analyst. They said that companies actually have achieved only about 20% automation rate, so automated testing. So that's really not a lot. And then finally, the last reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, that a lot of companies who are at the beginning of their continuous testing practice they don't think about quality. So welcome to Tricentis. Tricentis is here to help solve some of those issues. That's where I work. I just want to get a quick show of hands. Has anyone heard of Tricentis? No, no one. Oh my God. Okay. So we're not so popular in the developer community. That's all right. So what do we do at Tricentis? At Tricentis, we provide AI-powered automation technologies that help companies deliver high-quality software faster while reducing cost and speed. That's literally what we do. We have a fully integrated quality portfolio that can test virtually any application, whether it's web, desktop, mobile. We also support testing at every layer, so at the UI, API, and data layer. We support the automated testing of over 200 different technologies. Not just that, but we also support functional testing, performance and load testing, end-to-end testing, integration testing, mobile testing, accessibility testing, which I'm sure you all have come to see is quite an important topic, visual testing, which is obviously very important when you're trying to release high quality and user-friendly mobile apps. Basically, we support every stage of the software testing journey. So you can see here, managing your tests. So every time you have Jira user stories and epics that you need to work on, you can plug those into your test management tool. You can plug in all your different open source tools and all your test automation scripts in our management hub, and basically have a 360 degree of what is it that your teams are working on across your company. And finally, you can kick off those tests in your CI/CD pipelines to make sure that with every new code changes that, you're testing that process and optimizing your tests throughout the journey. These are a selection of some of the customers that we work with. We work with some of the largest banks and utilities companies. For instance, we work with Bank of America, JP Morgan, NatWest, Pfizer, some to name a few. This is just to give you information in terms of, some of the big names that we work with. So, all right, I thought to myself how I could grab your attention in case I didn't already, and I thought to myself, statistics. Everyone loves statistics, So I want to ask you, what is the average human attention span? What do you guys think? 5 seconds? Does that mean you were only listening to 5 seconds for my presentation? Probably. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than that. It's actually 8.25 seconds. What do you think is the average attention of a goldfish? Half a second? Okay, no, it's actually 9 seconds. So, ladies and gentlemen, we officially have lower attention spans than goldfish. I don't know if you have teenagers. What is the percentage of teenagers who forget important information? Yeah. I get that every time. Yes, it's 100%. No, it's only 25. Yeah. Okay, what about the number of times people pick up their phone? I don't know, I think it's per day. 100? 500? Oh, sorry, it's per hour. 11 times per hour, okay? You can do the math, right? 11 times 24. So, all right, what about the percentage of times, what was it, people pick up? Oh, sorry, what am I talking about here? Oh, no, percentage of times people read their emails, 11 times per hour. So, sorry, I screwed that up there. Average daily phone screen time. Just you can call it out. 3 hours, exactly. 3 hours and 16 seconds. And then the percentage of the world population that owns a phone, what do you think? No, it's only 86%. About 6.6 billion people have a phone today, and that's obviously that number is going up, right? And then what I found really ironic is that even articles that talk about attention spans are trying to kill our attention. So if you have a look at this, there's advertisements popping up on the sides and all these GIFs trying to distract us from reading the article, which is quite, hypocritical. And on top of that, if you go as far as back as 1956, we had this guy called Miller who told us that we can only store about 7 things in our mind at a time. So theoretically, I've already filled up your minds with those 7 things, and you're not going to listen to me anymore. So I hope I have your attention. And the reason why I wanted to talk about attention is because, as you all know, that's very much the way in which AI works. It's able to process large amounts of information and contextualize what is happening, and basically figure out different types of patterns and data and focus its attention on some of those patterns in order to give us outputs that are important for us. But another reason why attention is so important is because our IT landscapes are very complex, okay? We tend to think we're dealing with just mobile, but if you think of your IT landscape as a whole, we're dealing with many different applications. So just think about Amazon, right? Think about any retail or fashion retailer. Do you really think that just building a mobile app? So who likes to buy things on Amazon? Yes? All right. Yes, we all do. So this is the typical process. You go online, you look for a product, you browse products, you add something to your cart, you go to the purchasing checkout process, enter your credit card details, enter your, receive an email after you've paid, and so on and so forth. So we tend to think that's an end-to-end process. But is it really? There's actually lots of different applications communicating within that end-to-end business process. So, for instance, I'm sure you all know ERP systems, SAP. Has anyone heard of SAP? Yeah, so exactly, right. So a lot of companies use SAP for things like warehouse management, checking that the product is available, for inventory management, for order to cash processes. All the different components that are communicated in the back end have to work with your front end. Not only that, but you've got Salesforce. Everybody, I'm sure you've heard of Salesforce, yeah? Your customer 360-degree management software. That also needs to integrate because you want to get relevant information on the information of your customers so you can send relevant marketing promotions and so on. So really, you need to be testing across that integrated process, and that's not always easy. If you go shopping, okay, who has purchased a pair of jeans on Amazon? Not sure if you've purchased Levi's jeans, okay, but there's so many different types, okay? There's different waistbands, there's different measurements, length, colors, whatever, right? So if you do the math, there's 16,000 SKUs just for Levi jeans in Amazon, right? That's a lot. So if you're going to test that the functionality of your mobile app works every time a user selects Levi jeans, how on earth are you going to test across all those different types? That's not an easy process. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would I test everything? I would just test the common happy path, which is the most traded path in the application. Yes, but what happens when you apply a discount code, like, I don't know, it's Black Friday or Halloween Day, or what happens if sometimes a user does something very different in your application, or some salesperson does something different? That's where you need to be testing. That's where the defects lie. So the defects lie in those not so well-trodden paths, and that's where we need to be focusing our testing efforts. And that's really where AI can help. So I want to ask you all, how is mobile testing different to testing any other standard application? Can anyone tell me? I know you're not testers, but I'll just imagine that you are. What do you think is different about it? Yeah. Exactly. You're interacting with the device, you're gesturing, you're kind of swiping, pinching, scrolling. That's true, yes. Any other ideas about what's different about mobile testing than testing any other app? Sorry? Yes, the user experience. So if let's take the point of user experience, because I think that's really important, is that, we're not just testing the software, we're testing how the software interacts in the hardware. And if you think about it, there's lots of different things that are happening in your device. You could be switching from 3G to 5G network, you could have low battery, you could be connecting to a public Wi-Fi, you could be receiving an SMS, you could be switching phone carrier networks, okay? These are all the different things happening in your device. Think about your users. Where are your users? They could be anywhere. They could be at an underground metro, at an airport, at an oil refinery. You could be, I don't know, at a large shopping mall, in a conference center. There's many different scenarios where your users could be. So you need to be ensuring that your mobile apps work in all those different scenarios, which is not always easy, right? And another reason why that's difficult is because, can someone tell me how many different brands of mobile are there? 20? Someone would say 2. Apple and Samsung, that's it. There's more than that. 20? No. 15? 50? Yeah. I got to check my data here, but when I Googled that, there's actually 1,300 brands of mobile. And if you think of just Android, there's 24,000 distinct Android devices. That's a lot, right? And so when you're testing your mobile apps, you have to ensure that they work not only across all those different device brands, but across different operating systems and across different versions of those operating systems. That's where the complexity lies, because you're testing things for like compatibility, different screen sizes, different resolutions. How does the consistent functionality of your app behave across all those different devices? I think that's the complexity that a lot of organizations have to deal with. And not only is there an explosion of different devices, but there's also an explosion of different variables. So when you're detecting mobile failure, just think about it. What went wrong in your mobile application? There's so many different things, you know? It could be like high CPU usage, poor connectivity, slow page, low page content, blurriness, blockiness, network-related issues. There's really a lot of variables. So how do we know what went wrong in the mobile app? I don't know. So anyway, the point is that there's a lot of complexity. So how do organizations test today? So organizations test either manually, so they, go and use the phone and try and test it out and see the application, which is great. It's great for exploratory testing, but it's quite slow and inefficient. You want to be automating that process, right? Otherwise, you're spending a lot of money on testing. Lots of organizations use simulators and emulators. And sorry, but I'm going to show you this slide here. If you're using simulators and emulators, that's great, but you're just testing really the functionality of the app. What about testing things, real conditions, like, for instance, network connectivity, performance, camera mocking? We just mentioned, scrolling, pinching, and all these kinds of things. For that, you really need to be leveraging a real device cloud. So, and then finally, a lot of organizations set up their own in-house device labs. So they purchase those phones and then they test internally, which is not a bad, solution. But what we see when we work with companies is that it's very hard. The infrastructure costs go up. You're having to maintain those devices, update them, regulate them, put them in a room, keep them secure, update the scripts. It quickly becomes quite cumbersome, and then your quality teams actually spend more time updating those devices and the infrastructure rather than focusing on the data, the analytics that we spoke about earlier. So really, that's not a good way to do things. So what we're doing at Tricentis is we have an integrated testing platform where we help you to test mobile apps. We address those challenges with a couple of phases. You can manage your connection to remote connections and local connections through to different mobile devices. You can author codeless tests. So in case your quality teams don't have any technical expertise, you can build no-code automation. You can execute those tests across real devices, so real physical devices sitting in the cloud, or virtual ones, depending on your needs. And finally, you can execute your tests and get all that data back so you know exactly how your apps are performing. And I wanted to break up that architecture a bit for you. So what we have at Tricentis is these three different phases I explained to you. So Tricentis Device Cloud is a real device farm. We support 3 data centers around the world. So we've got physical, actual mobile phones sitting in Bangalore, in India, in Sunnyvale, in the US, and in Paris, in France. So we cover different regions. You can test across these devices. We've managed the infrastructure for you. So there's different types of phones we support, from Apple, Samsung, Vivo, Renault, Huawei, you name it. There's many different types, not just smartphones, but also tablets. And then, obviously, you can author your tests with our solutions, which is both Tosca and Testim. These are the solutions that we use for doing codeless test automation. And then finally, you can run those tests, as I mentioned, on the Tricentis Device Cloud or virtually. So one other cool thing about Tricentis Device Cloud is that it has a mobile AI engine. So it uses convolutional neural network technology that's been tested on mobile interfaces to understand how they work. So we've tested the neural networks to recognize, to recognize different objects, video, image quality, audio quality, and all that data that you get back is basically your analytics platform. So there's literally an AI engine that's been trained to identify issues. And here is a selection of some of the data that we track. So, we've got things like UX-related metrics that I spoke about earlier, network-related metrics, device-related metrics, and Android graphics. So really there's lots and lots of data. This is just a selection of some of the data that we track, so you can really see how your apps are performing. All right, so I think seeing is believing, so I'm gonna actually walk you through a demo. I usually like to move around, so I'm sorry, I feel like I'm sitting here like a president, I hate it. I really wanted to go and interact so you can see what this is about. So what you see here is Tricentis Device Cloud, okay? And I'm gonna show you 3 main sections of this tool. So let's play the demo. It's a very short demo, I promise, 5 minutes. And let me get that working. Okay, so here you see the remote control area that basically is where you can view all the devices that are connected to your space. And I'm trying to get this to work, and it's not working. Huh. Can't seem to get that to work. Let's see if this works now. Okay, yeah, it's running. I think it's running, yeah. So these are all the devices that are connected. We've got a shared pool and a dedicated pool of devices, which you can select. So say you want to capture a session for a device, all you need to do is click start. And what you see here is the remote mirroring of the device. So it's an actual device sitting in Sunnyvale in the US. So you can pinch, scroll, and interact with the device as you do. You can install your apps, and you can also conduct exploratory testing or just simply capture screenshots. So this is the section that you see here. Once you've captured a session, here you'll see the performance sessions. These are all the tests that ran, and also that ran from Tosca and Testim. So it's like a summary of all your captured sessions. So let's say you want to view the data of a certain session. This is what you see here. It basically displays all the different metrics that were captured for that session. So you can see the timeline series data. On the right-hand side, you'll see the recording of your application. And here you'll see all the different metrics we spoke about, like blurriness, blockiness, contrast, content loading speed, memory use, CPU load, battery consumption. There's really lots of stuff that is tracked. And on the left-hand side, you see this thing called impact score. That's an aggregated score of how well your app is performing. And beneath it, you see all the issues that were captured. If you don't know what an issue is, you click on it, you can read about what it is and learn more about how to solve that particular problem. The next part is another way to view the data. So here you see the performance impact curve. And below it, in these circles, you see all the different metrics that were captured. So here you can see that this particular metric had the biggest impact on the low performance of the application. So if you click on that, high battery drainage, again, you can read about what is this metric about and how do you solve it. And finally, you've got the performance monitoring area. So what you can do here is you can compare how different versions of your applications perform in different regions, so different parts around the globe, how they perform on different devices. So here, for instance, you can see that battery drainage was really an issue on your Apple iPhone SE2, right? So you can really pinpoint and understand where those different metrics are impacted on which different, mobile applications and types. Okay, that doesn't seem to work. But basically, also what you can do in the last part of the presentation, and I can't seem to scroll. Okay, anyway, but you can compare different build versions to see, for instance, you can do trend analysis. So how does the build version A, does the battery drainage improve over time or does it get worse? So you can really track improvements and deterioration of your apps. All right, so I think, how much time do I have? I think I'll stop there and maybe just open it up to a couple of questions because, we have a lot of other content, but I just wanted to get anybody's questions. Is there anything that's not clear and anything that I can help to clarify? You mean how does it know the video quality? Yes, exactly. So there's network-related measures, there's pixels as well that are, you know, how to say, part of understanding how the quality is measured, and also the computer vision that you spoke about. So there is a machine learning component in the platform and this machine learning component has been trained on human perception data. So how do humans actually perceive the quality of the image and the audio? So basically, you get lots of different people entering. How do they perceive the application? And that perception data is actually part of the platform. So as well, like, what do people think about the quality as well? So yeah, that's one aspect of how it works. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mm. No, unfortunately not. But the analytics platform is only part of Tricentis Device Cloud. So, that's the whole point of it. Basically, it's you testing across those devices, and and the metrics are integrated only there. Yeah, yeah. But one thing we do is you can plug in your devices to our test automation solution, and that can give you some metrics, but not fully. Like, one thing we want to do is visual testing, which will be an accessibility testing. So let's say you have existing tests for your mobile apps, you can run accessibility tests on top. You don't need to create extra ones, and that can tell you as well whether you're implementing certain standards or not for mobile. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Okay, I think I don't know if there's any other questions. Yeah, yeah. More questions at the front. Mm-hmm. Yes. Under the hood, it's Appium. So our automation software runs on an Appium platform. That's how we identify IDs and objects every time we want to automate testing for them. So if you're talking about what types of, how to say, if you're building, say, a React Native or Flutter network, we support that as well. But we're testing those, like, that's different. Okay, so you're actually testing those apps. Um, Currently, we only support iOS and Android. Yeah. No, that's a good question. We don't have current plans, but yeah, we can look into that. Okay, so iOS and Tizen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Sorry? Yeah. I don't know if it does. What kind of codes? What? I didn't quite hear you. Mm-hmm. We support events. I don't know if you know, that's basically the framework that is that we're integrating with to run our automation tests against. And there's, I think, about 200 different objects that are important for accessibility that we scan against. And then we bring that data back into our tool to tell you, okay, you have violated this amount of accessibility guidelines. So you know how you have AA, AAA, there's different types of guidelines. We get that data back to you to tell you exactly which, what kind of violations you had, and it drills down into understanding what exactly was wrong. Was there a label context, ARIA label missing? I don't know, there's many different types. So maybe that one that you're talking about, if it's part of events, then we support it, but we don't track every single type of WCAG component, right? Yeah. Alrighty. Anybody? Thanks. Thanks everybody for your attention. I had a lot more stuff on AI. I mean, I don't know if we have time, but basically we can leave it off there. If you want to learn more, come to our booth. Otherwise, we do have a shift sync platform that we launched recently. So basically, this is a platform with many different, quality engineering experts or developers and business testers that can collaborate and communicate. So for instance, we have a webinar coming up on our AI test automation, which looks at how do you automate the automation, right? And how do we actually use generative AI in our company to automate different applications, which is quite exciting. I had to cut it short, but thank you very much for your attention.